Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Own Your Greatness. I'm Sienna Krieg, and I'm here with Melinda Van Fleet. Thank you, everybody, for joining in today. Today's episode is very special because we're going to be talking about a very newly released book. It is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and I'm assuming most people know that this is one of the Hunger Games books, but it's actually about Katniss's mentor, Haymitch, instead of her. So we're going to be talking about mainly about how Suzanne had to go back to her old books and really study Haymitch and his character because her first three books were all about Katniss, and of course Haymitch was in them, but we never really got his backstory. So she had to go back through all those books and remember all of these things and do this research for us to get to know Haymitch and what his story was when he was in the Hunger Games. So yeah.
Yeah, yes. Perfect intro. Thank you, Sienna. Yeah, I have it too. I'm not complete yet, as typical for me. Sienna read it much faster than me, but I love it so far, and I'm very excited to have this conversation.
Yes, yes. No, it was a really good book. I think I got it right when I think the day or the day after it was released. It's a really fantastic book, and if you guys haven't read it, I 100% recommend. It's just really fascinating because Haymitch was obviously in the books and the movies, but we really didn't know all that much about him. And just to get to know what he was like when he was younger, how he's different from the previous books to now, and how his character has developed throughout the whole series and what his motivations were. It's just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah. It's very cool, especially with a zoomed out, expanded lens in terms of mentorship. And it's something that I definitely appreciate mentorship. I'm a mentor myself as far as my business. And I always appreciated when I watched the Hunger Games, that aspect of the Hunger Games, right? And I don't think that the majority of people really understand that and really sit and think think about that. And so this concept of this book in general is just genius as far as, a worldview of the importance of mentorship and how that plays out in terms of their their lives, their successes, all the things that happen, and how that person actually becomes who they are in the
Hmm.
process. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very cool. Um, I don't know if you know this, Sienna, but are you aware of how Suzanne Collins originally came up with the whole concept of the Hunger Games?
Wasn't she? I think I've learned this on Pinterest or something, where she was watching TV and she was scrolling between stuff from the news from Iraq and then other news channels, and that's how she came up with this.
Yep, yep, extremely close. So 2003 was when we were at war with Iraq. And yes, she was watching television and she was going back between seeing the news channels of the war with Iraq, and then she'd flip a channel and see a TV program that was about a reality show. So imagine, the contradiction there between the two. So she had this idea, or you could say it came to her, to merge the two worlds and create this world. So I thought that always was a really cool story in terms of, taking your surroundings and adding some imagination to that to create your story. I mean, that's like the perfect way. And a lot of people say, they can't think of anything or they have writer's block. And, really just look around you.
Yeah.
Just look around you. And you can use some other, spiritual based tools in that process too, as far as asking questions and opening yourself up and make sure you're listening to your intuition. But in general, you're looking around and you may get other beats on different things in life and be able to extrapolate that and, build a really great story. And this is basically what I could also consider a franchise, right?
Yeah.
has movies, and this is the fifth book, and there's products and things like that too. So very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think that's a really fascinating story, just how like and this can be so inspirational to other people, as you were saying. You just kind of just look around you and wait for it to come. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's not like something that's like, I have this idea, let's do this. Like we have to,
Mhm.
sometimes it's just in those moments where you don't even like realize or you're not trying.
Exactly, exactly. You're not trying. You said it perfectly. You're not
Yeah.
trying. So do you think perhaps that she had some type of system to keep track of, the key points and, what she wants to bring out in terms of character development?
I'm assuming because, and I always think about this with like movies and movie series and book series. It's like, how do you keep track of all these
Mhm.
things and like all of the background about these people? Because I feel like personally, I would forget all the time. And I feel like I'd have to write stuff down constantly about like each character, like keep like a notebook and like have these pages like this is what this character does and this is their backstory just to make sure everything correlates. But I 100% think she has a system and she might have other people helping her as well to make sure she's remembering all these facts.
Yeah, yeah. With writing my book, and I'm so still early in the process, but what has been mind blowing in that is that yes, I have an Excel spreadsheet with characters and different aspects I want to make sure that they have as part of their personality traits or their appearance, what
Mm,
have you. Then I'm also using Scrivener. So that's a whole other tool itself that the majority of writers seem to be using nowadays. And then I even have my little yellow journal. Here, I'll grab it really quick. That when I'm just like on the fly, my friend Danielle bought this for
oh,
me.
that's cute.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? With the chakras and everything that, when I'm on the fly and I can't like type it in my computer, I can write it down so I don't
Yeah.
forget it. And I write down all sorts of notes about my book series in the yellow journal. So yeah, so I would imagine she has some system. I had gone on YouTube to try to see if there were any videos that she's done, like the ones you and I have talked about in the past from some of the other authors we've covered in terms of writing tips or her process. And there were some things, but not as how do I want to put it? Um, Not as distinctly mentioned in the titles
Gotcha.
as yeah as I was looking for, right? And I didn't want to go down like a whole rabbit hole of watching a bunch of book review videos. I just didn't have the time really.
Yeah.
So she might have dropped some nuggets here and there, but I just didn't really see anything. So yeah, so maybe she keeps it all a little secret, but
Yeah.
maybe someday we'll find out. So or if someone knows and you're watching this, like put your thoughts in the comments. So yeah.
Yes, please.
Because she first wrote, so the Iraq War was in 2003, and then Hunger Games came out in 2008, and then the next two books were like 2009, 2010, and then it was 2020 when the book you said you read it and saw the movie about
Um,
President
The
Snow.
Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did not read the book, but I just read the movie.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Perfect. So then there was obviously a time lapse. So when I've done research on writing a book series, there's been a lot of advice given out there that if you plan to do that, like there's so much to the story that you're going to have a series, that you should be prepped to be able to like release them pretty quickly, like in a row, right? So you can say
Yeah.
you can say that's like momentum, you have the audience, like they'll buy one, then they'll get the other because they want to binge it and they're excited. So
Yup.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. So I'd also love to know from Ms. Collins if if that was part of her strategy too, because she did release three books like pretty quickly in a row.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like this was like not expected because it was made so much later. And I'm really glad she did it because it's just a super awesome insight into this character. But because it was just made so much later, I feel like it wasn't originally part of the plan, but then she was like, let's make this.
Yeah, and I wonder that too. And how did you feel when you were reading it in terms of, it's still pretty much the premise of the Hunger Games, right? There's the
Hmm.
reaping, and then there's the mentorship and the training, and then the games. So what was your thought process as you were like reading that? And like how did you feel?
I felt like it was really nice. Just, I've never read the books before. This is the first Hunger Games book
Mhm.
that I've read. I've only watched the other movies. Um, but everything, I really liked how the movies and the books like connect very well because I think sometimes that's not done very well, just to be honest. But these movies and these books do a good job, and what was in the books, like I completely understood, and I was like, I know these characters, I know it was happening, everything matched up. And it was also really cool to see some of the characters in the who were Haymitch's mentors were also in the other Hunger Games movies as well. And I was like, wait, I recognize that name. And then I searched it up. I was like, oh yeah, it's that character. So that was really neat. I like when that happens when like older characters are brought in and then we get a little more backstory on them as well besides the main character. So I thought that was really neat. Just getting to know like President Snow when he was younger as well, and he was in his presidency. It was just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. And I also was very impressed and something to aspire to as a writer is how many characters she has, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the book's written in the first person. So
Yeah.
to get like the essence of the characters, I think she just did an amazing job with character development across every character that I've at least read about so far as I've been reading the
Yeah.
book. So very, very impressive. I'd also love to know how many drafts she wrote and editing process
That's
because
true.
it's so impressive. It's really, really good. So I
Yeah.
pulled up the Goodreads before we got on, and she has 351,000 ratings and almost a 5 star. I'd say it was 70% was 5 star. That's incredible in my opinion.
Yeah.
And 81,500 reviews. 81,500
Lots.
reviews. So, I mean, that's like really mind blowing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen, I mean, Cersei had a lot, but I looked at Cersei so much later than when it was released. So, for something that just literally released, what, a month
Literally.
ago,
I
you
think
know,
it like almost is basically a month ago.
a
Yeah.
month, right? Yeah. Then, I mean, that's like, ooh,
Yeah. That's
mind
really
blowing.
impressive.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and I really look forward to the film. I know I saw that they used one of the characters and main stars from Yellowstone to record the audiobook. But I'm
Ooh.
certainly hopeful that Woody Harrelson is in the movie. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another aspect that I really liked that I wanted to read. My glasses out a second. And one of the things that makes a great fiction book is when there's a question that is the residing question throughout the book, right? Like that makes you think that, um, is really something that can be transformative in your life. And this goes for fiction. I think a lot of people, and this is my own personal journey in terms of fiction. Most people think that fiction is just entertainment, and that could be, but also too, a lot of really great fiction writers, if in my opinion, if you are a really great fiction writer, you have a message, right? So
Yes.
on page 103, there is, in my opinion, the message so far. So when I read this, I was like, oh, here we go. So I'm going to read this really quick. And basically, I'll try to explain the characters without being too much of a spoiler. I gingerly reached up, and this is first person, so this is Haymitch. I gingerly reach up and she feels my rib cage where Panache's blow landed. So he had just gotten like hit basically. Not broken, I think. She steps back, her lips pressed tight in consternation. We could have taken them. The more I think it over, the more my dismay grows. Every year we let them herd us into their killing machine. Every year they pay no price for the slaughter. They just throw a big party and box up our bodies like presents for our family to open at home. We could have at least done some damage, I tell Ringina. That's one of the other um, tributes. At least a little, possibly a considerable amount, someone says behind me. I turn to see Plutarch. Plutarch, he waves his camera crew over to record the knife training, but his attention stays on me. The question is, why didn't you? I have the chills. So
That was a good.
Plutarch is actually part of Pan Am, if I said that correctly. He's like
Yep.
the video, let's say the social media person, if you want to put it
Yeah.
in context. So here he is watching, right, with his observations, saying, well, why didn't you guys revolt? Why didn't you, take advantage of, there was less peacekeepers, just to share a little bit of the story. There was at this in the scene, there was less peacekeepers, but they had access to ammunition. So they could have had, revolted, had a little revolution, stood up for themselves. And the character Plutarch is saying the question is, why didn't you? So if you think about it, like that's like a huge piece of that. So it'll be interesting to see if that unfolds a little more. So you might have some insight on that, maybe?
Yeah, I think it really is like, sorry, my bookmark dropped. I forgot I had one in there. I think the book really goes through the struggles of Haymitch and like his desire to act and revolt, and then the other side where it's like I'm too afraid to because I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to hurt more he doesn't want to hurt the people he loves. And so it's just it's like a huge battle between the wanting to do some sort of action and then um just feeling like you can't, like feeling stuck. And
Mhm.
so that was a huge thing, a struggle that he really had throughout like the entirety of the book. So,
Yeah, yeah. If you think about it, I mean, I know you're you're 19 and in college, so well, when you get older and you start to see things and you go, why don't I speak up? Right?
mhm.
Why don't I speak up?
Yeah.
So, and you probably still have relatable things, but I think as you get older, there's even more, right? Because you have more to lose. You can
Yeah.
lose your job. Now with social media, I actually was watching a podcast from Chris Williamson, and he was talking about why the younger generation isn't drinking, and which would be your generation. And one of the reasons they said was because there's cell phones everywhere and people can take a video of you and
Mhm.
put it out there on the internet.
Yeah.
And, people don't want that. That was one of the reasons they listed. And it's just true, right? So when you think about, why don't we speak up for ourselves? Like why do we feel we need to be silenced? That plays into it, all the aspects of society and what's going on, and then the underwriting fear of what you could lose if
Yeah.
you speak up. So I thought that was a really cool point of view. So thank you
Yeah.
for adding that. That's perfect.
Of course.
So yeah, yeah. Anything else you want to share about this book?
I don't think so. I feel like I had something earlier, but I can't remember it now. So,
Who's your favorite character? Like I know you read the whole thing, so
oh, um, I honestly think just Hey Mitch.
okay.
Which is surprising because I'm not usually a main character person. So, but I
Hmm,
really liked him.
gotcha. I am in love with the girl. Let me see if I get her name right. May.
Oh yeah, I liked her too.
Maisa Lee. I hope I say that right.
Yes,
Maisa Lee.
I really
And
like her.
yes, and I just think that the development of her is just like mind-blowingly great. So
Yeah.
it's just really relatable in terms of um, so many reasons. So I don't want to be too much of a spoiler if you haven't read the book yet. So read the book out there in the audience land. But yeah, I think that was really, really great. And then even the MC, the woman in the beginning, her name begins with a D. I associate with
There's
letters.
so many names. I like.
Yeah, I know because there's a lot of characters, but she's wearing the yellow outfit, and then Maisa Lee makes fun of her, so that's
Oh
when they're
yeah,
going at it.
that the MC made me mad.
That scene is just like, dang,
Yeah, that was a good scene.
really good scene,
Yeah,
really good
no,
scene.
the
It's
MC
just
angered me.
yeah, and that's it. Like, so it's so relatable to life, right? Because you probably have something where you're like, oh, I so badly like want to just like tear that person to shreds, right? And she did it. Like she totally
Yeah,
tore that MC to shreds. And it's just like the shadow side of yourself that you go, oh, yep, I wish I could have done that to somebody at one point in my life or another. So yeah, I think that's probably why I like the character.
yeah,
So, but yeah, it was really good. It was very fun. I'm so glad that we talked about this. So, yeah.
me too. Yeah, it's very on topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's just a lot of aspects to it. So I'm definitely going to finish reading it. I know I have a habit of not finishing all my books, but I did purchase this book, so it is mine, so I don't have to feel pressured. And I will definitely finish it because I like it. But I'm about the fourth through, maybe a little bit more than that. That's pretty good for me.
Yeah,
So yeah, awesome. Well, that's all I've got.
that's all I've got too.
Awesome. Well, if you have read the book out there in YouTube land, please feel free to leave us a comment, let us know what you think, add to the discussion. Would love to hear it. And if you have any suggestions for us, we would love to hear that too. So we
Yeah,
just
that'd be
try
awesome.
to, yeah, we try to do it from the lens of me writing my series and Sienna in the fact that she's actually going to school for communication. So that's tries to be our lens, a little bit educational, a little bit fun, a little bit entertaining. And we just really appreciate you watching our video. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you everyone for listening and watching. We really appreciate it. Please go check out the book.
Yeah. And be excited for the movie. So thank you so much,
Yes.
Sienna, for being my partner in all of this. I love you so much. And until next month.